Planet Earth. At some point during our short lives, all of us turn inwards and contemplate the nature of the Earth we inhabit. From childhood, we are taught about the Earth, the Sun, the Moon, and space. We learn about our solar system and the planets within it. We learn about the Milky Way and the infinite vastness of space. And we accept these teachings as fact and go about our busy daily lives. One day, I decided I wanted to know more about our world and universe. I wanted to know everything, so I started digging. But straight away, I started to bump into things that made me stop and think, here are a few of those things. Did you know that our spherical Earth is spinning in space at a rate of over 1,000 miles an hour? And that the Earth rotates the Sun at over 67,000 miles per hour, causing us to hurtle through the Milky Way galaxy at over 500,000 miles per hour? And all the while the Milky Way is expanding at the speed of light, zooming at roughly 670 million miles per hour. Mind-dazzling, isn't it? And yet not one single human on Earth can actually feel this motion. We can feel the motion on a roller coaster, a train, we get car sickness, and when we fall our entire body feels a rush, but we feel not one aspect of the Earth's daily journey through the cosmos. That's weird. We've all seen images of Earth from space. In 1972, NASA released the first whole image of Earth, as seen from space. Titled The Blue Marble, one can only feel amazement at its perfect spherical shape and feel the immense enormity of the silent nothingness that surrounds our blue marble. But did you know that the Blue Marble image and every subsequent image of the Earth released by NASA are composite images, developed by computers out of data and finalized in Photoshop? There are no whole images of the Earth as seen from space. Who would have thought? And then there's gravity. Einstein theorized that gravity exists due to the curvature of space that results from a massive object, and it is the force that keeps us all rooted to the Earth. What goes up must come down, and gravity is so strong that it has the power to keep all our oceans strictly bound to the Earth and the power to curve them over our spinning planet. But it is not strong enough, however, to keep the birds from gliding through the skies, to stop feathers floating in the air and balloons rising. I guess gravity's power is a selective one. As I looked into space and physics more, I had more and more questions. And I knew that somebody much smarter than me out there had the answers. But it wasn't just space that fascinated me. I wanted to learn about the biological and geographical nature of our world. And again, as I dived into learning, I found more weird things that puzzled me. It's basic biology that living cells consist primarily of hydrogen and carbon, and water consists primarily of oxygen and hydrogen. But biologists found the strangest of anomalies in the poles of the Earth that even puzzled Soviet biologists. They found an unnatural amount of water frozen in the ice and an unusually high percentage of carbon dioxide in the world's oceans. There is a lot of water, snow and ice on the Earth. Do you know what this anomaly tells us? It tells us of a great worldwide fire in the Earth's history that, biologists have suggested, carried away 99% of the world's biosphere. What really puzzles me is that figure, 99%. That means that everything alive on Earth is now 20,000 times less in volume, and the biochemical mass of all living things is much less than before this huge fire. Wait, what? What did living things look like before that fire? There's no doubt that we could benefit from extensive scientific study in our poles, but did you know that Antarctica is the only continent on Earth that actually belongs to nobody? In 1959, the nations of the world signed the UN treaty ensuring that no country has claim to Antarctica. The treaty prohibits and regulates all global activity on the continent. Wait, come again? Since when has any nation given up their drive to own and exploit any land on Earth? I kept researching, which just opened up question after question, Some things just didn't make sense to me, and it seemed that many pieces of the larger puzzle were missing or just unanswered. And then I stumbled on something so ridiculous and absurd, I did not know whether to laugh or become angry. Meet the Flat Earth Society, a group of like-minded individuals that hypothesize that the Earth is not actually a globe in a vast and evolving universe, but a flat and stationary plane. At first I thought it was a joke, or some kind of vigilant, religious and creationist denial of scientific advancement. Humanity lived in the dark ages for years, and we finally have objective, progressive science advancing our understanding of this great mystery, and flat earthers think it's okay to promote such anti-scientific theories. Nonetheless, I thought I'd check it out before dismissing it completely. In fact, I just wanted a good laugh and some entertainment to keep boredom at bay. But, you see, despite all my skepticism and desire to debunk and ridicule these flat earthers, what I found was nothing short of astonishing. I had finally found something that challenged my scientific understanding of the world, not just with theory, but also strong scientific evidence. I want to share this with you. Come with me, if you will, down this rabbit hole to discover whether our Earth is in fact a flat and stationary plane. I only ask one thing before we begin. Keep an open mind until the end of this series and question absolutely everything. I promise you this, at the end you will certainly agree that everything we have been told about our planet is not exactly what it seems. You may even find that your entire perspective on the world has changed, like mine has. And I warn you, this rabbit hole is deep and perhaps at times a little troubling, but we'll take it one step at a time. And hey, who knows, maybe we'll even get to meet Alice on her way to Wonderland. Follow me now to part 2 of What on Earth Happened. Here is a beautiful image of Alex Gleason's 1892 New Standard Map of the World that was on projection at Modern College in Blackheath, England. It states at the top of the map that it is scientifically and practically correct. The way Gleason's map significantly differs from standard maps of the world is in its representation of the poles. As you can see by comparison with a conventional world map, the primary difference in Gleason's map is that the North Pole is actually situated in the centre of the Earth, and upon first glance the South Pole, or what is known as Antarctica, appears to be missing. Upon closer inspection, however, you realise that Antarctica is indeed present and makes up the majority of landmass on the map. Antarctica in Gleason's map is an encompassing ice ring that covers the entire outer reaches of Earth. Gleason's map has become somewhat of a canonical historical document for flat earthers, many often reposting the image on the internet and heralding it as solid proof that refutes the heliocentric model of the Earth, or in other words, proving that the Earth is not a spinning globe in space, but a circular, flat and stationary plane. This was not enough proof for me, and while I gravitated towards the idea of a giant encompassing ice wall as a neat concept, I knew that we had a vast amount of evidence proving the existence of space, spherical planets, and entire sciences dedicated to solving the mathematical conundrums of physics. I mean, we landed on the moon for God's sake. Surely if the Earth was flat and stationary, then somebody would have realised by now. These brave souls did the unthinkable. They flew to the moon, they landed, took their first cautionary steps and planted the American flag. NASA sent multiple crews to the moon on subsequent Apollo missions. They even managed to film Apollo 17 leaving the moon.
Stage pushed. Mission arm is destined. Okay, I'm going to get to pro. 99, proceeded. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector grid.
But wait, hold on. If this is footage of the crew leaving the moon and making the journey back to Earth, then who did they leave behind to film their craft take off? And wait, don't you think those colourful emissions on takeoff look kind of fake? I haven't seen any subsequent rockets produce these sort of dazzling colours, and I suppose they did admit that they had lost all their data from the mission. but maybe that was just coincidence. I started looking into NASA a bit more closely, and what I found was shocking. I can say with certainty that NASA is indeed lying to the world, and has been lying ever since its founding in 1958. But don't take my word for it. Sometimes you can't tell people the truth, you have to show them. So let me show you. Buckle up and sit tight, because Houston, we have a big problem.
Okay, well, there's a big problem with the blue marble, and I'm going to zoom in here and show you what the problem is. These are all composite images where they are really not very good at Photoshop because they're using the Photoshop clone tool to replicate clouds. This cloud is a copy of this cloud. See the formations? They're identical formations. These right here, side by side, side by side. See this kind of W-looking shape right here, replicated right here. This cloud is exactly the same as that cloud. You know, same clouds right there, and same thing on the other side of the world. They got the same thing going on. They got careless. Here, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the same formations replicated right there. These two replicated, same exact formations right here. This right here is clone of that right there. I mean, really? So you're telling me that we could take pictures of Jupiter and Saturn, huge, massive planets, and now we're out going to Pluto, but we don't have one legitimate picture of the Earth from space that's not a composite? Click on this picture right here. Supposedly the same mission, same guys that took the picture of the most famous picture of our Earth. I'm going to do save image as, and let's see, Apollo Moon, let's call it Apollo Moon 17. And I'm going to open that in Photoshop. And if those of you think this technical difficulty was planned and think I'm scamming you, go do it for yourself. Because you're going to find the exact same thing. I got nothing to hide here. This is live on the air, okay? I'm going to zoom in on the Earth in Photoshop. You see the Earth? Go to Image, Adjust, Levels, and I'm going to bring the levels over here. And I'm going to bring the levels up. Uh-oh. What is that? Why is there a square box around the Earth allegedly taken from the scientists on the moon in Apollo 17? And people wonder why I don't trust NASA. That's why I don't trust NASA.
Just another example of NASA faking space. Take a look here at this supposed image of Jupiter. Nothing more than CGI fakery. The supposed auroras towards the north. Let's take a look here again at NASA's official website, where it states Hubble captures vivid auroras in Jupiter's atmosphere. Here's the problem. The date of June 30th, 2016. Now take a look at this. Another so-called official image of Jupiter. This one's from back in 2014. You see the problem here? Now let's take a closer look at the supposed two images provided from NASA of Jupiter. Here's the problem again. 2016, 2014. What's the difference here? Well, the difference is they added the supposed auroras on the north, and this is nothing but a Christmas tree. Give me a break. Take a look here. I mean, all the clouds are in the same exact position. Just the 2016 image is a bit, I would say, darker. It's a bit lighter in 2014. Here's a side-by-side. People can't see what's taking place here with NASA. Nothing more than fakery. I mean, give me a break. This is a complete insult. You have a brain in your head.
And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
it became instantly clear how they do it. And it's just video game technology. Now, if you're part of the geek squad or the techie crowd, well, then you already know about this technology. And so let's get to the video that caught my attention, and you will see the same things that I saw. Let's watch.
We have to introduce the concept of freefall. So let's use this model of the Earth. And let's enlist the help of a friend, Taxi. You might know her.
So what is significant about this video is, number one, it was live to school children. Number two, we have this stuffed animal that is transitioning in on another video channel. And the actor is able to reach up and grab this doll in real 3D space and manipulate this doll with their hands. And so the only way you're going to pull that off is with one technology. And that technology is virtual reality. More importantly though, something called augmented virtual reality is taking the objects in 3D space from a virtual reality world and putting them in our world on another screen, which we can see, manipulate, and touch with virtual reality contacts or glasses. In this next segment, I'm going to show you how NASA grabs objects in 3D space, rotates them around, manipulates them. They can do this with water, with cloth, anything. And the cool thing about it is we can take what they're doing, what they're seeing with their contact virtual reality augmented lenses, and put that on a separate video layer live. Yes, live, and do it all in real time. 45 minutes straight of NASA messing up their virtual reality setup. I tried to pick some clips that were obvious and some not so obvious. Show you some of the contacts. We're going to see Tim Peake with his contacts in, but these are virtual reality contacts overlaid on the eyes so actors can interact with things in 3D space, all in real time. In this next shot, we will get to see the whole arm setup and the virtual reality glove that covers all the way down the arm and hand. This allows the software to broadcast what we see video-wise as his arm in a shirt sleeve. Okay, I have a lot of Tim Peake screw-ups, but this one here, the system glitches. The software does not track his hand properly, and Tim slips his hand underneath his other fingers, which is tightly holding onto the mic, which would be impossible. I don't think this is Tim's fault. Normally, Tim always moves his other fingers up while he slides his hand under. I just think the system didn't respond to his movements here. It's virtual reality. They're wearing augmented contact lenses so that they can interact with these 3D objects. Now in this scene, the guy on the left in the green shirt, he thinks he sees an object in 3D space that's being broadcast to him, so he grabs it and he puts it off to the side. He's looking straight ahead because he's looking at an object rotating in front of him, but the video channel is down that is supposed to show the viewers what we're supposed to see, and so we don't actually get to see the object that he is seeing. And I would just sum this up as a very terrible, bad, horrible day for NASA doing live feeds.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. You might. Now sometimes you get water in the helmet, and it comes. It's either from sweat or from the cooling garments. And in some of my spacewalks, I had like water in the helmet. Not like I was going to drown in the helmet, but just little bits of water probably came from sweat. Often on the outside of the space station, you'll liberate little pieces of it's a really harsh environment out there, and the outside of the space station gets beat up pretty good. And sometimes, you know, you'll see just little flecks of paint or something that you might have disrupted floating away from the suit. And, you know, that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Yeah. Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
Why don't you swear in the Bible that you walked on the moon? You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if you ever thought of it. Say that misrepresented myself. Away from me. You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
And then there is this. Official NASA research into the dynamics of an aircraft that would function over a flat and non-rotating Earth. A flat and non-rotating Earth. A flat and non-rotating Earth. What? I know NASA has a tremendous multi-billion-dollar budget, but why would the organisation waste funding research for an aircraft that functions over a flat and stationary Earth? I thought we lived on a spinning globe in space. Is this not like Toyota designing a new car that drives through lava? It would never be used and would be a tremendous waste of money. This is all fun and games until you really start to ponder NASA's lies. Why would the biggest space organisation, whose vision statement on their website claims that it is their goal to discover and expand knowledge for the benefit of humanity, lie? And where exactly does their multi-billion-dollar annual budget go? In the last 5 years, NASA's total annual budget between 2016 and 2020 totals over a whopping $100 billion. Why would they commit such fraudulent actions if they want to benefit humanity with their understanding and exploration of space? And if we cannot trust the most famous of all space organisations to give us the truth, then is the Earth really what we've been led to believe it is? And then I remembered the 1959 United Nations Treaty, which prohibits and regulates all global activity on the continent of Antarctica and ensures that the continent belongs to no nation. With Gleason's map in mind, I started to wonder whether Antarctica was really what we had been told it was. Was it really a freezing white untouched paradise where, as Sir David Attenborough shows us, penguins play in the snow? Could it really be a huge ice wall encompassing the entire Earth? And then something dawned on me and stopped me in my tracks. How did I not notice? It was staring me in the face the whole time. Gleason's map. Hidden in plain sight in the United Nations logo. Look, the North Pole is at the centre just like Gleason's map. And why is Antarctica missing? Or is it? Upon closer inspection I realised that the logo was framed in a circular laurel. I know from ancient Greek mythology that the laurel leaf came to symbolise Apollo. Apollo again, just like the moon missions. In ancient Rome the laurel was not permitted for profane uses, and lighting it at the fires of the altar was strictly forbidden. And I knew from the treaty that the UN had strictly forbidden Antarctica from being explored and exploited. Was there a message in this? I started digging, and then I realised that not only did the United Nations have this logo, but also the International Maritime Organization, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and the World Health Organization. The Maritime Organization polices the seas, and the Aviation Organization polices the skies. The World Health Organization controls all health and disease communications and guidance for the world, much like it has during the COVID-19 pandemic. Did the UN's military really police Antarctica with the maritime and aviation, or is it just an arbitrary treaty honouring the last unspoiled place on Earth?
Hey, just a Navy destroyer. He will yield. He'd be thinking, that cheeky better not cross my bow. Yeah. Stop, Josh. They take it seriously.
What did they say?
You got to yield. You can't just fucking. They think you're going to charge them.
We don't know for sure, but I think they did say something. No, they did. They thought.
They,
I thought I heard. They come back last call. Yeah, fucking talk to them.
Actually going around. He's turning. Stop. He's turning. He is actually turning.
He said about the ship yesterday.
No, he is turning. Fucking hell, what have we done now? It's turning, Josh. Just sit still.
He's slowed down, has he?
Yeah, he's really slowed down. No doubt we were in trouble.
What for?
It's coming to us.
He's coming to us.
He's got the shits because...
This is Warship Hobart, channel 16, over.
16.
Yeah. Exclusion area, please report your intentions.
Fishing? Who the fuck's that?
We're heading to the shelf to go...
Just say we're out fishing, heading out fishing. No, we're just heading out fishing. Get the dinghies out, boys. They get
Going that way.
We're just traversing.
We set up a demo today with this Cessna and the Air National Guard. I'm going to be inside of this Cessna and we're going to be going rogue. We're going to fly into that no-fly zone and we're going to see how the Air National Guard does it. They scramble the fighter jets to come
Take off. We're off.
flying for miles and miles until...
Okay, we've just entered the no-fly zone now.
Our pilots aren't talking to air traffic control, ignoring their calls to reach them. That triggers an alarm at the Air National Guard base. These fighter pilots scrambling to their jets. They're on alert and ready to take action 24 hours a day. Today, racing to their F-16s, suiting up, climbing on board, and rushing to the runway. Taking off to intercept our rogue Cessna. Reaching the target in just minutes. This is the view from the F-16. That's my Cessna right there.
Intimidating as you would think it would be. Look at that fighter jet. He's right off our wing.
Another F-16 swooping in on the right, calling us on aviation frequencies.
You have been intercepted. If you hear this transmission, acknowledge the radio call and rock your wings.
He wants us to identify ourselves. We're a rogue aircraft, remember, for this demonstration, so we're not going to respond at all and see what this fighter jet is.
Ordered to turn to the northwest.
The fighter jet giving us one last warning. After all of this, the pilots still won't listen. The plane won't leave the airspace. Will you shoot them down?
If required, we'll execute the rules of engagement per the commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command. And yes, we would do that.
Shoot the plane down?
If it meets the rules of engagement, yes, we would, to defend the airspace.
Why are they policing the parameters of Antarctica in such a vigilant way? Surely they are just protecting the penguins and seals that we've seen so often in Planet Earth and Frozen Planet documentaries. I don't know, I'm not too sure anymore, because after I stumbled across this. A giant ice wall, stretching for what seems to be hundreds and hundreds of miles. I don't know about you, but I find this footage deeply disturbing. With NASA's lies in mind and that great ice wall looming in the distance, I began to experience what some call cognitive dissonance. I went into denial. Of course none of this could be true, and of course our Earth is a spinning globe as we've been taught throughout our lives. It's one thing NASA lying, but are all the professors and scientists lying too? Is the National Geographic Channel lying? And what about Newton, Einstein, Hawking and Attenborough? Are they lying too? It's a complicated answer, and I will do my best to show you the truth. But before we look at the gatekeepers of knowledge and the trusted voices of our world, I need to show you more of our Earth. I don't want to lose you just yet. Come with me to part 3, where we will explore a few ways our Earth could work as a flat and stationary plane.
But this whole thing, it's just a symptom of a larger problem. There's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country. It may be the beginning of the end of our informed democracy. Of course, in a free society, you can and should think whatever you want. And if you want to think the world is flat, go right ahead. The Earth isn't flat. And by the way, this is called gravity.
It is an interesting experiment telling somebody you know that you no longer believe in the universe and that our Earth is a giant spinning space ball. Try it for yourself. I guarantee they will tell you you're crazy, or at least look at you like you've lost your mind. The most interesting thing is when challenged, the ball believers will not actually be able to give you solid empirical evidence based on their first-hand experience that the Earth is actually a large spinning globe. Can any of us demonstrate first-hand in our day-to-day lives the Earth's curve or motion through the solar system? No, we cannot. And can any of us say we have seen the planets in their orbit and the universe expanding with our own eyes? No, again we can't. Usually in response to this crazy person telling them that the Earth is flat, they will respond by 1. Bringing up images of the Earth as presented by NASA, or 2. They will say, come on, everyone knows space exists, and tell you that countless professors have dedicated their lives to studying this matter. At some point, perhaps, an emphasis on the existence of gravity will come up in the conversation. But you see, what is really happening when someone reacts so stubbornly to an alternative view of the Earth is not a result of the person's mental capacity. If the person had sat down with their heavily pregnant sister and said, "You are not a woman and you are not pregnant," then that is a statement which deserves such a reaction, as there is obvious empirical evidence of her pregnancy. No, what commences when challenging a person on the Earth is a battle against their programming. This programming is a deep-rooted and established matrix that is deliberately constructed when we are infants. Before we leave primary school, our first-hand experience of our flat and stationary world is slowly being erased and steadily inflating into the bloated and spherical idea that the Earth is a globe. The sad thing is, many of us grow up and never question this notion again. It is only in photographs and videos from NASA and other official trusted sources that the horizon appears curved. All amateur and raw unedited images of the Earth will provide a completely flat horizon. And this is what we see ourselves through our own two eyes when standing at a beach or looking out from a vantage point. At any altitude, the horizon always appears 360 degrees flat, because it is. And it always rises to meet the eye level of the viewer. You never have to look down or up to see the horizon. It meets you. No matter how huge they say the Earth is, if it were a curved ball, you would have to adjust your view upwards or downwards to meet the horizon. And I know we've seen the curve in photos and videos, but NASA and many other official sources continually distort the horizon in their footage with a fisheye lens to give the effect of a curved Earth. This is the same fisheye lens inherently built into the GoPro. And I know what you're going to say. You've seen the horizon bend and curve when journeying at altitude on an aeroplane. But unfortunately, this is more trickery. Aeroplane windows commonly bow outwards to give the illusion of curvature. A Telegraph article, catering to our gullible nature, explains that flight windows were changed because the square windows caused a higher percentage of crashes. Yeah, right. They use our size as human beings to dismiss our own infallible perception of a flat and stationary Earth, claiming we are not big enough to witness the curvature. But this balloon managed to ascend 121,000 feet and left its fisheye lens behind. Lo and behold, a flat horizon. The balloon wobbles and spins, but the horizon remains dead straight, not curving in any way, shape or form. And this is the problem. For centuries our ancestors used their own judgment and relied on their own natural born senses to discern that the Earth was flat. And although some had dabbled in theories of the Earth's potential curvature, it wasn't until the early modern period, with voyages like Christopher Columbus, that the heliocentric globe model became dominant and humans forever sacrificed the knowledge of their own senses. And the heliocentric model is so blatantly flawed and nonsensical that it's astonishing that it even gained traction. Take the water bordering our horizon, for instance. It is the natural physics of water to find and maintain a level, and it just so happens that that level is flat. If Earth was a spherical ball, water would not maintain such consistent flat levels. We are used to water doing this and this, but we have never in all our lives on Earth witnessed with our own eyes water do this. Water does not bend. It's not called sea level for nothing, you know. And if water did not always find a flat level, then why would we use tools such as this to achieve accuracy? Again, water does not bend. Rivers, for instance, always run down to sea level. If Earth was a rotating ball, then inevitably many rivers on Earth would at some point in their journey have to flow uphill. As Eric DeBay points out, the Mississippi is 3,000 miles long, which means it would need to run uphill for 11 miles on a globular Earth. He also points out that a portion of the Nile runs for 1,000 miles with a fall of only 1 foot. Again, if the Earth was a spherical ball, this would be impossible. The scientist magicians of our world claim that the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference. But spherical trigonometry dictates that the surface of all standing water must curve downward at 8 inches per mile, multiplied by the square of the distance. That means that a 20-mile stretch of water would dip 66.68 feet on either side of its central peak. Every time scientists have tried to find these dips and bends, however, water always proves to be completely level and flat.
There's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country.
When building railway tracks, roads and bridges, architects and engineers never account for any curvature. Engineer W. Winkler was published in the Earth Review regarding the Earth's supposed curvature, stating, "As an engineer of many years' standing, I saw that this absurd allowance is only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I have projected many miles of railways and many more of canals, and the allowance has not even been thought of, much less allowed for. This allowance for curvature means this, that it is 8 inches for the first mile of a canal, and increasing at a ratio by the square of the distance in miles. Thus a small navigable canal for boats, say 30 miles long, will have, by the above rule, an allowance for curvature of 600 feet. Think of that. and then please credit engineers as not being quite such fools. Nothing of the sort is allowed. We no more think of allowing 600 feet for a line of 30 miles of railway or canal than of wasting our time trying to square the circle.
It's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country.
If the Earth was actually a globe, spinning at a mind-numbing 1,000 miles per hour, how is it that we do not feel its motion? There is not a single person on Earth that can testify to feeling the Earth's alleged spin. We feel the motion when travelling in a car, train, boat, plane, and can experience motion sickness. The scientist magicians will tell you that we do not feel the Earth spin because it is spinning at a constant speed. They often use the analogy of a train ride. We only feel that we are moving when the train changes speed. This analogy, however, falls apart when you consider that in the heliocentric model, the Earth is not an enclosed system, but it is an open environment with its own drastically changing weather. If you were sitting on top of the train moving at a constant speed and not inside it, you would certainly feel the motion. Furthermore, they also contradict themselves. In a 2016 article titled "NASA Study Solves 2 Mysteries About Wobbling Earth," they state that the Earth does not always spin on an axis. Instead, it wobbles irregularly over time, and that the direction has changed drastically due to changes in water mass on Earth. It's weird that no one has felt this. Which one is it, NASA? The stealthy, unnoticeable spin, or irregular movement patterns and wobbles? The whole notion of a spinning globe becomes absurd when you consider this. If the Earth was actually rotating, then helicopters and balloons would only need to hover over the surface and wait for their destination to come to them. Similarly, if it were a curved spaceball, then aeroplane pilots would constantly need to readjust their altitude downwards so they did not continue straight and start heading out to space. They would have to descend 2,777 feet, or over half a mile every single minute. This of course is not the case, and pilots are never instructed or taught this mechanism of flight. And what does a real pilot have to say about it?
Oh, okay. Yes. Am I allowed to say hi? Hey, I just want to say thanks for the smooth flight.
Alright.
I did have one question. Is there like a specific angle of downward tilt you have to fly at to
3 degrees.
3 degrees for the curvature of the Earth?
Oh, for the Earth?
Because no,
we just fly over the troposphere.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have to keep like kind of going down because?
No, you actually have to nose up. It flies. Yeah.
Really? Because I was reading some stuff on the flat Earth that made a lot of sense. Have you looked into it?
Which one?
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright, cool. Hey, God bless, brother.
Alright, have a good one.
You too.
Crack on. I just got one question to ask. Flat or a ball?
Flat or a ball? What's that?
Well, I never feel as breaking round. If we live on a ball, surely we'd have to fly around it. Yeah, it feels like flat or a ball.
Flat, not a ball. I think it's flat.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty flat to me.
It certainly does, doesn't it? And you've got that flight instrument down there to keep it flat.
Gravity exists.
Gravity? There's an unproven theory.
No, it's not.
Let's rock and roll. Cheers, fellas. Thank you very much for the.
Can I ask the pilots one question?
First officer's here.
Do you mind?
He's got a question for you. Oh, yeah.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good.
I'm a fellow, Casey Josh, I'm a fellow, just PPL, pilot,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I got a couple of serious questions to ask you.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there's a big time. Curvature.
Curvature?
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't allow for curvature, do we?
For anything, not for you usually. Yeah.
No, we're round, we're a disc, aren't we? Round and flat.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, look, honestly, quite seriously,
Yeah.
we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for being...
If the Earth is actually rotating, flight paths would become very messy. Flying west from New York to California is 2,441 miles, which takes just under 5 hours on a commercial flight. If the Earth is spinning eastwards at 1,000 miles per hour, then not only would this flight take a lot less time, but it would also make it near impossible to fly back the other way due to the constant rotation of the Earth. It would be like trying to run up a very long and very fast downward escalator. And what about the weather? If the Earth and atmosphere is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, then don't you think it would be impossible to see such stationary clouds and weather formations like we do? Not to mention that clouds often crisscross in their pathways. This would be impossible if the Earth's spin was a reality. Thomas Winship states, "Let imagination picture to the mind what force air would have which was set in motion by a spherical body of 8,000 miles in diameter, which in 1 hour was spinning around 1,000 miles per hour, rushing through space at 65,000 miles per hour and gyrating across the heavens. Then let conjecture endeavour to discover whether the inhabitants on such a globe could keep their hair on. If the Earth globe rotates on its axis at a terrific rate of 1,000 miles an hour, such an immense mass would of necessity cause a tremendous rush of wind in the space it occupied. The wind would go all one way, and anything like clouds which got within the sphere of influence of the rotating sphere would have to go the same way. The fact that the Earth is at rest is proved by kite flying." And honestly, if the Earth was a fast rotating globe, then wouldn't the oceans and other bodies of water be pushed away from the Earth in the same way as when a wet tennis ball is spun rapidly, the water sprays outwards? The scientists magicians have an answer for this. They call it gravity.
And by the way, this is called gravity.
The scientists magicians are at it again, weaving their spells and telling us tales of a powerful force keeping us rooted to the Earth. If gravity was such a powerhouse, then birds would struggle to fly. Insects would not be able to use wind to navigate. Monkeys would not climb and jump among trees with ease. Planes would not be able to take off from the ground. Trees would not be able to overcome gravity's pull when their growth towards sunlight and would begin to bend towards the Earth the taller they became. And if gravity exists and has the power to bend and wrap the oceans around a gigantic spinning ball, then humans would certainly struggle to lift their arms and legs. Legend has it that an apple fell on Newton's head as he sat under the tree, and this was the catalyst for his great discovery of gravity, which claims that objects are attracted to large masses and gravitate towards their centre. However, when they talk about gravity, what they are actually referring to is the law of density relative to mass.
Today, I'm going to show you a simple science experiment that you can try at home to learn about density. Start by taking an empty glass and tip in some water and food colouring. Then add some syrup or treacle. And I'm going to add a little bit more water to make the layer a bit thicker. Then finally, fill the glass up with some oil and leave it to settle for about 15 minutes. These liquids separate out into different layers because they're different densities and they don't mix. The syrup has the highest density, so it sits on the bottom, and the oil, which has the lowest density, rises to the top. Try dropping different objects in to see what happens. If we drop this metal nut in, which is really dense, you can see it sinks right to the bottom. But if I take this grape and drop it in, it sinks through the oil and water, but sits on the syrup. This is because the syrup is denser than the grape. Pretty cool, huh? Now if I take this plastic bottle top and drop it in, it slowly sinks through the oil and sits on the water. And finally, if I take this piece of sponge and drop it in, it sits on top.
It is a scientific fact, verified by undisputable evidence, that when objects are placed in mediums with less density, they sink, and when placed in mediums with higher density, they rise or float. For example, a rock in water will sink because the object's density is greater than the water's density, as will a ship's anchor. Likewise, helium-filled balloons rise because they are lighter than the air. Submarines float on the ocean when their ballast tanks are empty and contain air, and they sink when their ballast tanks begin to be filled with water. This is how they manipulate their depth in the ocean, by adjusting the ratio of air and water in the tanks. This is proven by filling a balloon with 50% air and 50% helium. As helium is lighter than air and the ratios are even, the balloon remains fixed in the air without rising or falling. Again, much like the Earth's curve and spin, we do not witness smaller objects on Earth gravitating and orbiting around or being pulled towards larger objects. It seems very convenient that gravity's tendency to make smaller objects orbit around larger objects is exclusive to the globe itself and all the supposedly surrounding planets and stars, none of which we can actually see in motion or orbit. Even when you study the claims made by the scientist magicians of the so-called planets and moons, their calculations begin to work against them. As Eric Dubay pointed out, Newton also theorized, and it is now commonly taught, that the Earth's ocean tides are caused by gravitational lunar attraction. If the moon is only 2,160 miles in diameter and the Earth 8,000 miles, however, using their own math and law, it follows that the Earth is 87 times more massive, and therefore the larger object should attract the smaller to it, and not the other way around. If the Earth's greater gravity is what keeps the moon in orbit, it is impossible for the moon's lesser gravity to supersede the Earth's gravity, especially at Earth's sea level, where its gravitational attraction would even further out-trump the moon's. And if the moon's gravity truly did supersede the Earth's causing the tide to be drawn towards it, there should be nothing to stop them from continuing onwards and upwards towards their greater attractor.
There's a growing anti-intellectual strain in this country.
Ultimately, Newton's gravity erased the common sense of up and down, and in its place normalized the preposterous idea that this is possible. And this. And that meanwhile, in Australia, this is nonsensical, pseudo-scientific mockery and nothing more than an invention to justify the spinning spherical Earth hoax. Without the theory of gravity, not a single person in their right minds would ever believe the Earth a globe, with some of the population existing upside down on the underside of the planet. This is all quite simple once you start to break away from the toddler years of matrix programming. The laws of perspective and density perfectly explain the natural workings of our world. They invent complex concepts such as gravity and ridiculous spinning spherical networks of incomprehensible figures and speeds to bamboozle us. And we will get onto why they do this shortly. But wait a minute. I know you're not on board with this just yet, and I can tell you have a big question that you're burning to ask. If the Earth is not a spinning globe, then what about the sun and the moon? We can see the sun rising and setting every day. I'm glad you asked. Follow me to part 4 so we can take a much closer look at our wonderful sun.